This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered legal, medical, or mental health advice. We speak from our personal experiences and opinions. The views expressed are solely those of the individual speaker and are not intended to malign any group, club, organization, or business.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Confronting the Line, where we explore the boundary between help and harm in the personal development world, where transformation can either empower or exploit. How do we tell the difference? I say we tell the difference by coming to the line where we can see the light side and the dark side, having conversations, learning, deconstructing, engaging with experts so that we can learn all in service of a safer, more ethical self-help space. That's what we're up to here. So today I'm thrilled to have back with me Lindsey, who you met briefly if you watched the episode where we went through the response that Ben Eisenberg, who had challenged Landmark to stop doing programs for people under the age of consent, and his response letter from Harry. So Lindsey was on to take that apart with us. And Lindsey has been in the background working on a little special series, kind of special subject series that she's calling Children of the Forum, and we are going to be supporting that and helping her host that. So we thought we'd take today to really get you all introduced formally to Lindsey, since we hardly let her get a word in edgewise on that. Anyway, so Lindsey, welcome to Confronting the Line.
Thanks so much, Anne. It's really good to be back.
Well, I have been gifted to spend, we met, I don't know, maybe about a year ago, something like
Yep,
that.
about a year.
And when you joined the Is This a Cult book discussion group on Facebook, and you and your husband both, who were, been involved, we'll get to hear the story, but started your own journey of what the fuck is actually, it's kind of where it starts. It's like, what? And, that's an important thing for us to keep saying. Nobody joins a cult. Nobody joins a high control group. Nobody joins a narcissistic relationship. That's not where it starts, right? It starts in a very, very, very different place and often happens very slowly over time. And as my friend Chris Shelton says, Landmark barely even qualifies as a cult, which I think is hilarious that he says. And I
Mhm.
think he's right. It's on the spectrum of destructive cults. It's on the lighter side, unless and until you go on staff, which Lindsey did for a short period of time. So,
Yeah.
Lindsey, tell us a little bit about you and who you are and your connection to this whole subject of LGATs and high control groups and Landmark and all that.
Yeah. Um, so Landmark came into my life when I was a kid. My mom did the form, and then my two older sisters did it. They're much older than me, so they were teenagers, and it was just a part of life. It was
Mm,
kind of like our church, because we didn't go to church, though adamantly would say this is not religion, but that was the role it really kind of felt like in our house, except I couldn't actually go to church, so I just had to absorb the information from my mom and sisters. I couldn't wait to do it. I wanted to be a
right.
part of the group. I wanted to be on the inside.
I want to pause you just for a sec because your analogy to church is an interesting one. I used to say when we would defend in guest rooms, no, there's not a doctrine here. There isn't a doctrine. There's tools. There's
Yeah.
tools, and they call them distinctions, which we've since learned that's a weird use of that word. But there's tools for being in better communication, just living a more productive and effective life. After the whole 1990s, debacle takedown with Warner, and they had to, he leaves the country and they have to remake themselves. And that's when Landmark comes into existence. They really decided very deliberately, no, we're just going to be a seminar company, except for it's based in an incredibly intense cult following, on Warner. Then over time, as you participate, because it has a specialized language where they do redefine words, that's
Mhm.
one of the red flags, folks. If you're involved in a relationship, an organization, where they're redefining, they're using language and English language, particularly, that's when we're talking because that's when we know, but I'm sure it happens in all languages. But when they're actually redefining the meaning of the words, not just that they're using them in a super word salady way, that's like a light red flag. A big red flag when they're actually redefining what the word means.
Mhm.
Now you're into a group that, whether even they realize it or not, but is gonna become really culty, so to speak.
You control the narrative when you control how words are used.
Right. Like, look, guys, these are not words based in the original Latin meanings, okay? Like, this is not a highfalutin educational environment. So, because it is a specialized language and the words do have their own meaning, this is another thing about the cliches, then it does become like a doctrine. So, in a family environment or a friend environment, it becomes the language. It's like shorthand language. And the thing about that is it takes everybody else out. So
Yeah.
there's an inside and an outside.
Yeah,
So it does
100%.
start creating a separation, which is another thing that they say, well, we don't separate families, but they kind of actually do. So we'll explore that. We can do a whole episode just on that. I had two people who
Yeah.
listened to my little bit culty episodes that dropped last week that contacted me and said, "Oh no, I lost my friend. I lost my sister." I mean, I've heard from a lot of people who lost their family when they
Oh,
started.
and even inside of my family, there's been so much turmoil over who did landmark and who didn't, and it was
Really?
weaponized. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
So sorry, I just wanted to pause you right there because we haven't talked much about that, but that's like a really important people mark that. You guys will probably see a
yeah,
lot of Lindsay and I because we have all these great conversations and we think we should share some of them with you.
yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
so there you
no,
are growing up
it's
in this, it's your religion basically, or has that same effect.
yeah, yeah, and, to, like, know it was a really great thing, but still be on the outside for so long was strange. I would go to evening sessions or, like, special evenings, like, I just remember rolling around on the chairs and waiting for the lectures to be done. Then everybody would get really happy to be interacting with each other, and everybody's all lit up, and, "Lindsay, you're so cute," and all the, like, gushing over the kid that was there just wanting to fall asleep. But it was also exciting too, like, everybody was so happy, and
Right.
we had come from incredible trauma. So to suddenly have, like, real excitement and vitality and energy in the house, was extraordinary. It was like, "Oh, yeah, these it changes lives." Absolutely. Even in my little, 8-year-old self, I could see that. As I got older, I felt more and more fucked up. I felt more and more like I didn't know how to operate in the world. Like,
Mm.
there was something wrong with me. I needed fixing. And really what I needed was trauma therapy. But, this is 1980s and that's not even a thing. Um, Around 14, my mom was like, "I'm gonna see if I can get you in the landmark form." Even though it was for adults, my mom thought, I bet I can get a special exception for you. You're so mature, and we can't afford to send you down to Seattle where they do the children's or teen forms." So she got an exception, and off I went to do my first landmark form at 14 years old with 100.
Can we just do a little side comment on the whole exception culture? So it is not hard to get an exception in Landmark,
Yeah,
especially if that staff member has a target to meet. So not that they're just completely willy nilly, like there is some thought, like they do have to talk to the center manager and occasionally they might have to talk to whoever the forum leader is or the well-being forum leader. Typically, this is all internal. They don't consult external people. They did it one time, but they haven't in any of the time I was involved and that I'm aware of. But, it's hard. You're supposed to sort of trust that they're going to follow the policies, the procedures that have been laid out, oftentimes because there was a problem or they know of a danger or they know of a harm or they know of a risk. So, there's a reason they don't just enroll young, people under the age of consent in forums, although I think they do right now. I think you can be 15 as long as you have parental consent.
yeah.
So, because they're not offering teen forums or young people forums anymore, and they don't want to, they don't want to miss out on that business. Now, I'm saying it that way. I do want to acknowledge they don't think like that. They fully think they're changing the world.
Well, yeah,
Some thought if she put you in the forum, it would fix things. I still have
yeah,
people call me weekly, say, "Hey, what do you think? Should I put my teen in a forum?" And because they think it'll just handle everything, and it's so
yeah,
much quicker than therapy, and therapy's not available to a lot of folks. So there you are. Mom says, "We're going to see if we can get you in the forum." She got permission, so you're in a full adult forum. So you're not in a forum for young people or a
yeah.
forum for teens. You're in the full adult forum, and you're how old?
14.
Okay. All right, well,
Yeah.
pick us up from there.
Yeah, 14, and, I was really excited. I was like, "Yes, this is it. This is the thing that's gonna make me feel normal. I'm finally gonna, figure out what's going on with me and what I need to change and how to do that, and it's gonna be, miraculous. I'm ready for miracles," right? Like, that's what kind of,
Stuff of
that was even in the
fruition?
language. Yeah. Yeah, so there's just, a lot of hype happening, and I'm, sitting there, waiting for the forum leader, just like a open vessel, "Please come and fix me."
Yes.
Ultimate trust, I just yeah, I had ultimate trust of whatever was gonna happen there, in the leaders, in the company.
Unlike adults that were invited by a friend who probably could maybe go sit in a guest event or something, you've already been indoctrinated, to use the cultosphere word, right? But you've already been fully invested, convinced, told because of your home life environment that this is it. Like this work, this weekend, this is going to change your life. It's going to fix you. Like it's already completely there for you. So you don't have that skepticism. I can see that, a lot of adults will come in, they're kinda like, "I hope, but I
Y
don't know." If they're
y
really desperate, they're on the hope side. If they're not so desperate, then it's more like, "Prove it to me, show me if this is
well
actually what my
And
friend says."
there's that whole the whole first part of the first day, right, is kinda dealing with that, and I'm sitting there just like, all right, come on, let's go, enough of this. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let's get to the good stuff." And, I participated my heart out during it because it was like, I knew in order to get the good stuff, I had to be willing to talk about myself and raise my hand and interact with the forum leader. And so I was just being, the very best student I possibly could. I in the moment, I thought it was all good. That's all, why would I think any different? And any kind of uncomfortability I had was my own shit, my own brokenness that I had to overcome. And it was like I was wrong, Landmark was right, and I had to shift myself in order to be the right kind of person to have the experience of life I wanted. And it's so hard because it's so there's just so much and it feels so jumbled in so many ways. And that's part of why I'm writing the book. Yeah, and doing podcasts because it's just after reading your book about a year ago and really realizing that I wasn't broken, I wasn't fucked up because that's was my conversation for the last, almost 40, there were things wrong with Landmark. It was like a whole new world opened up and I could start to examine things individually rather than just have it be an overwhelming feeling of I'm fucked, everything's fucked. Transformation isn't possible for me because 'cause I'm too broken.
So are you saying that because you participated at 14, you got it, as they used to say. If anybody's ever wondering where that phrase come from, just watch Semi-Tough and go back to the old S days, because that was a big thing. Everybody was like, "Got it, got it, I got it. Did you get it?" Anyway, I'm just curious about the time period between when you
Mm,
do it and when you stop participating, because it sounds like you stopped participating a long time, more than just a year ago. You stopped participating a long time ago, but it almost sounds like in part because it wasn't working for you, and you
yeah.
thought it.
I would take yeah, I would take big breaks, and that's one of the reasons I knew it wasn't a cult is because I could come and go as I pleased. So
Oh,
that
yes.
was obviously, it's not a cult. I can just do a few courses, participate for a few years, then leave and do other life, and then go back. But what I didn't realize is that I kept needing to go back because I was trying to get that initial feeling of transformation, which you've talked about, John Hunter
Well, this is where
talking.
we've got peak experience and transformation
Yeah,
collapse.
right.
And they fully, I think Landmark has it collapsed for itself. So, the most believable lies are the ones we believe ourselves. That's kinda how I position Landmark a lot is, I mean, there's some lies they know they're telling and they know they're lies. But in terms of their work, a forum leader, a leader, I was one, you see like this euphoria, what we now know Dr. John Hunter has been studying and bringing in what's actually happening in the brain and that huge dopamine high, and then somebody fills in and goes, "That feeling, that's transformation."
Yeah.
And yes, you are having insights, like, how you're seeing things in your life about yourself does shift. So it's not like that isn't happening, But that's the quiet part.
Yeah.
The
Yeah,
loud
the
part,
big overwhelming part is the chemicals in your body being manipulated.
that peak experience, which was a big part of training and transformation in the 70s and 80s. That's what I mean by they didn't really remake themselves as much as they think they did. So that peak experience is a big part of the experience and it gets labeled transformation. And to me, that's not what transformation is. And, but I can see, so you have that experience and then you're kind of chasing that experience.
Yeah, yeah.
Chasing,
We would
yeah.
even say, like, "I need to go get a hit, a landmark."
Mm, gotcha.
So after I did the form, I wanted to, of course, keep that feeling in my life, and I thought I had found my community after feeling so fucked up and awkward and like I didn't know how to be myself. I suddenly found this whole community of people who thought I was amazing. I wanted that feeling. Like wanted that feeling of support and community. And then I started volunteering, doing the assisting program, both in the office. So I'd go once a week to the office for a few hours after school and just do computer inputting stuff. And then I started assisting at the forums on the weekend. So at 14, 15 years old, I would be in the room setting up the chairs, doing all the paperwork, doing the boards. And that would be from like I don't know, what time are we there? 7 o'clock in the morning till, like, midnight, like, is a general day for assisting, and I would do that for the whole weekend.
And did you have to like, was there a formal process for getting your mother's consent to have you do that? I'm just curious.
I don't think so. Probably just asking her, like
Uh-huh. And for the first time, they probably wouldn't necessarily yeah, because I don't know of any formal process there was. I'll have to ask my husband, he was a center manager in Seattle for a long time. I got curious about that when Ben was talking too. It's like, "Well, what? I don't really remember that." Like, you just put your name in a basket and people call you and then man, if you're especially if you can take on being full-time, a full-time assistant, volunteer is the real word for that for a weekend, like you were like gold, man, because that was tough because it's a solid 40 hours. I figured out my hours. I led the wisdom course, which is a different course for senior graduates, and we did not go until 10 o'clock. Like we ended much earlier. I don't even remember when we ended, but it's like we did have dinner. Anyway, I don't remember, but it wasn't long and it wasn't arduous. It was full of a lot of socializing and whatever. But it was still 40 some hours. Like from the time I would land on Thursday, have a meeting, lead the course Friday, Saturday, Sunday, take off on Monday, I would have been in front of people talking 40 plus hours.
yeah,
So
it's
a
very
forum,
intense.
more than that, a forum is probably closer to 60.
And when you're assisting too, there's this, um, hyper focus on doing everything perfectly. They call it an integrity, but
Or
really it is perfectionism, like OCD level of
Mhm.
having chairs lined up, pens lined up, like, if you make a
That's
mistake
another legacy now that I've learned so much about the history and detail and just heard from so many people, that's a Werner legacy. And when I then was hosting Werner and came to see that, what you had to do for the environment around him. Now I was already totally trained in that and very, very good at it. I also didn't take it quite so seriously.
but for a 14-year-old, it becomes like it's doctrine, right? It's like, "Oh, this is how to have things work in your life. You have to have everything straight and perfectly ordered. Otherwise, there's distraction, and you can't expect the results that you want." So
Okay.
that becomes the truth. That becomes how I live my life. That is a core belief.
You do the form, you're participating a lot, you're assisting, you're whatnot. So then just kind of at a high level, what happens?
Yeah, so then I was the production manager for a forum, which meant I was the person responsible for getting all the volunteers, organizing them all, and having the weekend go smoothly. And that was such a I was 15 when I did that.
Okay, sorry. Hang on while I just be shocked for a minute. Are you kidding? For
Yeah.
real?
Yeah, it was I just feel shaky even thinking about it right now. Like, it
How does
was
this not violate
so stressful.
child labor laws in Canada? Because I know you were in Canada,
Oh,
not in the US.
yeah, no, apparent you can't it's illegal. You can't have a underage teen volunteering for a for-profit company in Canada.
Wow. Because it's not actually illegal. I wrote an article about it actually, about the ethical volunteerism, because I was kinda mixed. Because I appreciated getting to learn some pretty incredible skills through volunteering that I couldn't afford. Like I wasn't in a single mom, I couldn't afford to go get formal education in those things. So was always a little conflicted about that whole assisting learning thing. So in the US, it's not illegal. There are rules though in confinement. Landmark definitely went over them, which is why the Department of Labor twice issued opinions that the assisting program was indeed a violation of US labor law. But young people, like below 18, when I went to get a job, I got my very first job just before I was 16 at McDonald's. I had to get it because my mom was kicking me out of the house. I had just had my baby. She was like, "You have to move out." So I had to have a job. So anyway, I had to get permission. She had to like sign all these forms so that I could work. And then there was like I could only work so many hours and it was it was very regulated until I turned 16, which is the legal age of employment in the United States. Then I could work more of a full-time schedule. Still with
Yeah.
some restrictions though, as I recall. So in Canada though, you're not there's
No,
you
not
know
for a for-profit company.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and that was like, I think that's what broke me. And I stopped assisting after that. I was 15. I had a new boyfriend and I just started to gravitate towards being a teenager.
So then you kinda go off and you be a teenager for a little while,
Mhm. Yeah.
and
I
then
go off
how do you
and
end up
do.
on staff for a little bit? So when do you kinda come back into the
So
Landmark
I
Flex?
came back. Yeah. I came back when I was 20 because I was doing the advanced course with both my sisters. And we did the advanced course and the self-expression and leadership program together,
'Kay.
which was it was just the most fun of it was just getting to be with my sisters. And then what did I do? Oh, that's right. I coached the SELP. And then from coaching the SELP, my two friends convinced me that I needed to do the ILP, which is the Introduction Leaders Program, which I had always been terrified to do. Both my sisters had done it, and I knew it was really intense, and I was scared. And I remember going on a long walk on the seawall with my friend Jonathan, and he was like, "This is it, Lindsay. This is the thing that changes everything. I will lend you the money to go do the first weekend. You have to do it." I was like, "Okay." As scared as I was, "Okay, I'm gonna go do it."
Hey, Anne here. Quick PSA. If you've been listening to Confronting the Line and finding yourself wanting more space to reflect on what you're hearing, that's why I have created a new Patreon channel called Beyond the Line. The public show is where these conversations meet the world, where we bring survivor voices, expert perspectives, and difficult questions into the open. Beyond the Line isn't just about listening, it's a space for community gathering. It's where people who are ready to look more deeply can come together, reflect, ask questions, and engage in thoughtful conversation about what we're learning and how we do better in the self help and personal development space. The Patreon structure simply helps create a container for those conversations, one that supports readiness, care, and shared responsibility. This isn't about hiding information or creating exclusivity. It's about approaching complex and sometimes destabilizing material with context, care, intention, and respect for psychological safety. Confronting the Line will always remain public and accessible. Beyond the Line lives on Patreon as a membership based community. Member support also helps sustain this work and makes it possible to keep these conversations public, independent, and ongoing. If that kind of space and that kind of support feels aligned for you, you can learn more or join us at patreon.com/beyond the line. The link is always in the show notes. See you there. All right, so you are going into the ILP, Introduction Leaders Program, which is scary. I led that program actually. That was the first thing. That was what I wanted to do. I thought that was the most transformative thing ever. I mean, certainly was for me on so many levels. I was a trained salesperson, but I did that because I wanted to become better at that. I had a friend of mine had taken me under her wing to teach me sales because she's like, "You'll always have a job. You'll always be able to take care of you and your kids if you learn sales." So to me, ILP was a way to do like more ethical, connected sales because I would get the skills that I saw in the landmark leaders. And that's what I wanted. And what you don't really know, well, you kind of do if you've been around the community a lot, but what you don't really think about is that your whole job for 6.5 months is to enroll and register people in the Landmark Forum.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and
anyway,
I
so how
was
was that for you?
well, it's funny because I was doing the course really to get breakthroughs for myself. Like, I wasn't sure
Mm,
that I wanted to be an introduction leader or a
mm,
leader, like, that seemed really scary to me, but I knew I was still stopped in my life, and so this was gonna be the thing that finally caused the breakthroughs I needed to have a life I love. So
gotcha. So you're still
so
chasing that promise.
absolutely, yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah. Um Yeah, and then I ended up doing the course, coaching the course, and then being asked to be on staff after I coached. And it was like just being offered the greatest honor, really. It
Right.
was like, how could I say no? I was being honored with this, even though it was terrifying to me, again, the idea of doing this job. It
Mhm.
was like, well, this is what I'm up to, right? I'm up to being bigger than I know myself to be. I am up for transforming the world. What else am I up to? What am I gonna do? This is the ultimate
Oh,
calling.
great, Lindsay. You're pointing to something again, this stuff's, like, so sneaky because 'cause we've lived it, but it's not till you go back and examine it that you really can kinda like, "Whoa," because I remember when I was offered a staff position, and I was married to a staff person by that time and flipping hated it. I was, like, so angry all the time because he was never home, he wasn't around. He'd come home at, like, 10 o'clock, 10:30, get in bed with me, we'd fall watching TV, fall asleep, whatever, and then, like, 2, 3 as soon as I was, like, fully asleep, he'd get a couple hours, and then he'd get up, and he'd go work on his coordinator files or go work on his backlog of work that he never could get to, and then he'd come back to bed at, like, 5 o'clock in the morning and sleep till 7:30 or so. The kids are now getting up, going to school, whatever, and then, 7:30, 8, he'd get up and go back to work. And, pretty much 6 days a week. I mean, Saturday was a little different because if there wasn't a program, he could come home at like 5 or 6 or something. So I hated the whole staff world. But then by then, I had become a wisdom course leader. And then I got offered like the creme de la creme to go on staff as a program leader,
Mm.
which was like, that's everybody goes on set, that's the big carrot is you're gonna get to lead the program, so I was already a program leader, so and there had only been, like, 5, like, staff wisdom leaders, it was, like, really exclusive, but I forgot about that piece, like, it is this sort of honor, and I remember calling up the woman who was accountable for my training. I wasn't actually a full wisdom course leader yet, I was still a candidate, an apprentice, go moving into candidate, in other words. So it's a 3 years, right,
Mhm.
of training. So I was, like, in my 2nd year of 3. And I remember calling her and saying like, "Oh, they want me to take this staff position, and if I check in with myself, like, no way in hell could I do that. I'm not trained enough,
Don't do
I'm not."
that, Anne. Don't check in with yourself.
Yeah, well, it was so great. Margie looked at me and she just said I said, "So I'm calling you because I trusted her," and I did trust her, and I said, Can I do this?" And she said, "You can do this." And so I accepted the position, which was this enormous honor. I always figured out that Landmark's version of the scarves, like the Nexium scarves, how you got a different color as you
Yeah,
moved up.
yeah. The
Landmark's
sashes,
version name tag, so I was gonna finally get a metallic name tag.
the white name tag, man.
Man, that was it. You'd made it when you had the white name tag. So, because I was staff, so that was the most challenging, edgy, and it was interesting because later when I would see Werner and how he's trained his staff, it's all legacy from their guys. Like, all legacy. It's just watered down versions of the Werner culture. And, I didn't know that. I didn't even fully know that when I dropped my book. Like, I've learned so much of that in the last couple of years, but that whole piece, like, it is such an honor. That's a big thing that has you reaching up. The other thing I wanted to clarify, just for those of our guests that might be listening that aren't familiar with this particular world, when you do their leadership training program, which is it's now called the Leadership Academy, it was called the Introduction Leaders Program. Kind of the whole sales pitch is you're going to come do this for 6.5 months. We're going to train you through training to lead our introductions. You're going to get the basis of what all landmark leaders, their basic training. It is like basic training, like in the army. And then at the end, if you meet all the measures and if you are invited, you can then or no, you can request, I think. You can request to be candidated an introduction leader formally, which is like the entry level into the leadership body. Nobody goes into leadership body without going through this step. So it's kind of set up like that's why if somebody came to me and said, "Oh, I don't think I really want to be a leader, but I think that training looks really good and da 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 da," I would be like, "Well, yeah, you're not actually doing it. Like part of why you're doing the program is to find out if you want to be a leader in
Right,
this
except
organization."
when well, at least my experience once you're in the course, it was like, "Well, what are you doing this for?" Like, the kind of end expectation was that you would transform yourself enough in the course that you would end at wanting to be an introduction leader. Like, that was the right conclusion to come to at the end of doing the course. If you didn't wanna be candidated, you know, well, why why? What's stopping you? What are you resisting that you're
See,
not
this is a
going
place
to
where
do
I was
that?
a different kind of leader because I was totally fine with people not being candidated. I like to me, it's like they sort themselves but that's a good sales technique, by the way. You don't wanna sell your customers something they don't want. Like back in the day, now everybody does it, but back in the day, that was not ethical. You didn't do that.
Yeah.
But what that doesn't address is the social pressure. It's
Oh,
very
yeah.
clear. So no matter how, like, fine I was as the leader of th with that and whatever, it didn't matter. But the social pressure was, being a leader in this organization is one of the highest honors, one of the most valuable things you could do for your ongoing performance and development and making a
For the
difference. Now
world.
you're changing the world, right? Like
Yeah.
this program is where all of that comes in really, really strong. So if you've met the measures, which you play full out to meet the measures, and then you can choose. Like that's the way it's set up. And there's a ceremony and everybody cries and it's, like, I mean, I still semi remember the, man in Superman quote. I just actually looked it up the other day that you would
What, Shaw?
read to people it was just like, so the social environment is like, of course you would wanna do that. Who wouldn't wanna do that? So that's a big part of it that I think gets overlooked a lot and definitely overlooked by the leaders because we weren't trained in any of that. We knew about the social dynamic, so Lindsay could be sharing at the mic and I can have a total breakthrough because I can relate, I can see my own life through Lindsay, so I don't have to necessarily like that was the social dynamic, but we never learned a thing about social pressure or any of that stuff at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then you get asked so you do that, you obviously got candidated, you become an
Yeah.
introduction leader, and then you get offered the opportunity to go on staff, and what was that like?
It was I was really excited at first because I was gonna get to be the communication course registration manager, which is their senior programs, so it's talking to graduates about doing the next course, which I was like, "Oh, yeah, I can do that for sure," except because what was happening was the communication course registration manager was gonna become the center manager, our center manager was being sent to, I think, LA to manage that center. And then so I accepted the job, got on the job, and I think it was the first week that they were like, "Actually, she's not going to LA, she's not moving her position. We're just gonna have you be a registration manager in training. So you're gonna work with the registration manager for the landmark forum, and that's
That's
gonna
the
be
hot
your job."
seat.
That's a whole fucking different game. Like,
Mhm.
but I can't say no. I've quit my job. I'm there. I'm committed to changing the world. So I've gotta do it. And it was hell. Like, it went from being a world of possibility to the most boring, life draining work that I had ever done. Like,
Mm.
I could barely keep myself awake. And I now can look back and go, I was going into collapse. Like, absolutely. My brain was going, this does not compute. And my body just started to shut down. Like, I would literally have to lay my head on the table. And I wasn't doing well, like, I was miserable, I would come home from, my whatever 12-hour day and watch a movie and eat a bag of chips and go to sleep and repeat the next day.
Mm,
And after about 3 months of that, I talked to my center manager finally and was like, "I am suffering. I'm struggling. I don't know what to do." And so we had a call with the, what's it called? The
centers.
regional
Yeah, centers
centers
division.
division manager, where, he pretty much said to me, he said, "Well, Lindsay, you're either gonna do what you have to do. You're either gonna do what it takes to transform the world, or you can go work at fucking Starbucks." And I said, "I think I'll go work at Starbucks."
Wow, how grateful are you for that now? Heard all the stories. Because the main thing is if you make it past 1 year on staff, you're, like, fully, like, owned. But you
Yeah,
just and you're telling of that story, I really appreciate the way you told that because you just demonstrated a very subtle, it's not so subtle shift that happens as soon as you say, "Yes, I will be a staff member." So as soon as you're
yeah,
hired. So the only time you have any negotiating power at all is before you say yes. But as soon as you say yes, the very ground of the context for staff is you are the enterprise. So you are to do, and it's an overnight thing. You are to do what the enterprise needs from you, not what you want, what the enterprise, which in our heads, those are, we're like, the enterprise means whatever's required to transform life itself,
yeah,
where I am and for the world. So it's like it goes to this level of commitment that is intense, but it's subtle, it's quiet. Nobody like those words are said to you, but you're already fully engaged that this is the best thing since sliced bread. Like this is the tools. If everybody in the world just had rackets and strong suits and winning formulas and blah blah blah, whatever, all their distinctions and operated from there, then we wouldn't. The world would be fabulous. Well,
yeah,
they've been teaching those for 50 years and ain't going well. So that but that was really interesting because you just really laid that out really well. Like, yeah, of course. So you go on and nope, you're not gonna we know we hired you for that, but you're needed for this, and that's what the enterprise needs from you. And there's no choice about it. You either stay or go. I mean, you can
yeah,
kind of go, but you'll be shamed. You'll
yeah.
definitely
Well,
be shamed.
I
Mhm.
actually think this is a guess anyway, that they were happy that I wanted to go because they didn't actually need me. I was hired for a job that then didn't exist, and then they just had this extra staff member,
Right.
that they were paying for. So, I think there wasn't a huge battle for me to stay
Well,
on.
although shaming you, like, that's how shame looks, folks. Yeah, well,
Yeah,
you can either do what it takes, Lindsay, or you can go work at Starbucks, which is it's an insult. I mean, it's an insult. They're insulting you and saying, like, "Or you can just go be an ordinary person."
there's no in between, right?
Mm-mm.
There's no in between. Yeah, well,
But
that's the
that's
thing about
that shaming, that subtle shaming that really, folks, we do good to learn to recognize that when people are
yeah.
doing that to us because that's run, don't walk away from
And
that.
it sounds empowering, like, the if you're not gonna be a stand to change the world, who is? It's kinda like,
Mhm.
if you won't stand for it, how can we expect other people to stand for it? It really comes down to I'm so critical, I'm so important. They want me to think that's like, I'm giving up on the transformation of the world, and
Yeah.
that's gonna do damage if I quit.
So you left. So you left,
Yeah.
and then how was life after Landmark for you?
I I said I would assist at this big thing that was happening in Vancouver, some big, like, worldwide landmark conference,
I'm sure they were
and
seeing themselves or something.
yeah, probably.
Do that about every 6 years.
And I was like, "Well, if I'm not gonna I'll do this big thing, like, I'm not gonna be on staff, but I'll do this really big important thing with this person," and then I just bailed on it. The person organizing it would call me, and I would have now I know I'd be triggered. I'd have a trauma response to having to talk to this person because I didn't want to go be there. And I ended up just ghosting and just for months. And then finally I called him and said sorry. And he told me what a disappointment I was. And he expected better from me and all these things.
Or shame?
And pardon?
Said more shaming, and at
More
this point,
shaming, yeah.
volunteer. Like, folks, you wanna get that. She is a volunteer at this point. She's not being paid. I mean, nobody should be shamed even if they're being paid, but you're a volunteer.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I've heard again and again, and I just don't get that because, I mean, I killed myself to try and make sure those volunteers were getting 10 ti because my job as the program leader and the staff member was to make sure they were getting 10 times the value of what they were putting in and la, 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 so, all of that, but I'm just kinda like, that volunteers were talked to that way is just, ugh.
Well, I'm a senior graduate, right? I'm an ex-staff member. I should know better. I should know how to communicate, how to get off it. I should be able to use all the tools in every situation so that that doesn't happen.
I see. Good point.
Yeah. So, I think I didn't do anything for years after that. Um, I just tried to yeah, carry I went and worked at a coffee shop for a while, a Landmark
Just
graduate who owned a coffee shop, but not Starbucks, and then it wasn't until I married my husband and moved to California my husband who I met in the ILP, by the way.
he's very handsome for everybody who wants to know.
Yeah, he also grew up in Landmark, and it was really like seeing someone from across a crowded room and connecting with them, and I was like, "Who
Mhm.
is that guy?" And we were didn't we didn't stay friends for a while. We, like, lost track of each other and then connected again, and we had, at our core, so much in common. Like, we were we grew up in the same cult. We finally found people a person we could really talk to. And so I moved to California, and we were like, "Oh, yeah, there's a new course at Landmark called Direct Access that people have been
Oh,
talking about.
mhm. And
Brand new
nice.
course." And we're like, "Well, maybe this will fix what's going on with, relationship to our jobs and money and every problem that we had at the moment." And, wow, that was the most the most useless course I have ever done in my life.
Oh,
It was
really?
yeah, like, bogglingly. I walked out of it like, it all came down to one distinction at the very end there, that was just kinda like, "And then just get this thing." And I was like, "But I don't get the thing." And they were like, "No, just get it." Like, "Huh? I don't." "Well,
It was
give it
their
some
play
time."
when they first discovered neuroscience, and they were the whole amygdala hijack anyway. Yeah.
It
I
was
was I was on
the whole
some
bracketing thing. That's
development aspect of that, yeah.
yeah, it was the distinction bracketing,
Oh, yeah.
which is really like all the thoughts and feelings you're having right now. Let's just put a bracket around those. Let's just not deal with those. We'll put them over here. We'll disassociate from everything your brain and body is telling you right now so
I have
that
a
you can
hat
stay
somebody
on
made
track.
that says "bracket this." She's a graduate. Anyway, it was
Oh my
great.
god. I was like, "I can't.
All
I
she
this
needed
is
was
my
the middle
problem is"
perfect hat.
I love it. Yeah, my problem was that I couldn't disconnect from my feelings. That's always been my problem, and that's always why I thought I was broken, and here was another thing being like, "No, no, no, just disconnect from those feelings so that you can carry on." And I was like, "I can't. I am so stuck in my feelings. I am a very emotional person, and I felt wrong my whole life
Mm,
for being that because I was supposed to be able to just put my emotions aside and focus on the task at hand.
mhm,
And it felt like a bubbling cauldron of feelings trapped inside of me. Like, even right now, I feel it. Even doing this interview, I feel myself just like, I want to get all the words right. If I
mm,
can't expect to be listened to, if I'm not saying this perfectly, getting my story out right, it's all so confined inside of this. Don't feel or think what you wanna feel or think. Just be a robot,
yeah.
and I can't fucking do it. I am a messy person. Like, the more comfortable I get doing these podcasts, you'll get to see how messy I am, the more comfortable I get.
Super fun, and that what makes you fun actually is you are messy, like, what I've appreciated our friendship so much because you're one of the few people that I can be messy with, because you have room for messy,
Yeah.
and it's hard for me because I always had the leader status, so I can't be messy, I have to be my daughter, like, I call her one of my most prolific, best teachers, but she a couple of years ago, she was, like, literally yelling at me on the phone, "Mom, feel your feelings." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" I think you just nailed something else that's really important that's throughout the whole '70s, '80s, '90s, early 2000s, by m mid to as we start to come into 2006, 2007, 2008, and I'm talking in the pop culture world, not in the academic world, but we start to figure out that separating people from their feelings is not healthy. We start to figure out that behavior is actually driven by emotion and emotional needs, either being fulfilled or not being fulfilled. Like, all of our human behavior is connected to that. And it's really interesting because I still see a lot of coaches and trainers that are kind of trying to go back to that old thing. Rationalization is key, and what they're saying is sociopathy. We were deconstructing it. We're like, oh my God, we were training ourselves to be sociopathic narcissists. No, no, for real
100%.
people. I actually think there's a direct line between the self help, personal development, professional development of the '70s, '80s, '90s, early 2000s to the level of narcissism and sociopathy that we're seeing in our society right now.
I
I I think there's a
my theory
strain.
absolutely. I think what the goal was to train everybody, if you could just a type A personality, driven, no circumstances, environment don't matter, the world is your oyster, you can do anything if you just get out of your own way, and the goal was to be type A. I'm not a
Mhm.
type A personality.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not.
Which if you look at a lot of it's interesting now because we have some leadership on the totally other end of the spectrum, emotional disaster zone, but I wouldn't call it emotional, but anyway, narcissistic disaster zone. Because it comes around full circle, right? Like, if you start studying narcissism, like, you start to see as people who have disordered narcissism or malignant narcissism, that kind of, like, so insular, so they go crazy in the end. So disconnecting from your feelings it's not healthy, but that's really a fairly recent thing. That's why I keep saying I think one of Landmark's issues is they keep not upgrading their technology. They keep coming back to the Est Werner technology, and even if we give that a pass and there was some great stuff in there, there's stuff we're definitely worth carrying forward, but there's things to be added. There's things that we understand now that we literally did not understand 30, 40 years ago about human psychology, human development. So let's jump to so that's kind of your experience. So and then you and your husband, and there you have a couple of totally fantastic kids. I've hung out with them, you guys, like, really. How often do you hang out with people and their kids and like their kids? Like, really, for reals.
They're
You
pretty
have
great.
great kids. And so I wanna jump ahead because I wanna get into the children of the form. So you and Aaron somehow, somewhere ended up reading my book. Was that the first time that you had had anybody say, or had you kinda started to come to, like, "Hey, I think this wasn't so healthy or this wasn't so great for us." Like, I mean, you
Yeah.
must have, 'cause most people don't pick up my book unless they're like, "I've been kinda wondering that myself," you know?
Yeah. No, we had done some seminars once we moved up to Seattle and had Elliot. It was again a, transitional time in life where we were like, well, we could use a little boost, maybe some seminars. It'd be because we had just moved to the Seattle area too. It was like, well, it'd be good to connect with the center,
Community.
maybe meet some people, our church, right? Create
Mhm.
community where we know to create community. And, well, for Aaron, I think they just did nothing because it always boils down to the guest conversation. Everything comes down to if you're not inviting the people in your life, you can't expect the results. Like, that's
Right.
how you know the work is working on you, is that other people are coming to do the work so that they're transformed in their lives, then
Yeah.
you can be transformed in your life and
Right.
on and on. And we're just so resigned. And I think actually just so maybe connected to reality on the guest conversation that it was like, "No, that's not it. I want me. I wanna work on what is happening with
Yeah.
me, not in relationship to even how I am with other people." And then I did a seminar that was called Sex and Intimacy, which
Or I hate that seminar.
it
I was
it's
not a
so
fan of the seminar
inappropriate.
programs, but my husband led that seminar. I had to walk out. I was, like, in the back of his room, and I was like, "I can't be here."
Like, they have no business doing a seminar on sex and intimacy when they have no idea about trauma and abuse. It fucked me
Mm,
up so much, like, it conjured so much shame and disgust in me. I went into a depression for years after that, and that's when we started saying, "Fuck Landmark."
mm,
After doing those seminars, we were like, "This doesn't add up. What about this?" And, like, just little things started seeping in, like, "They said that was supposed to help me with this, but I'm still feel totally fucked. How could I grow up in this education, do all the courses over decades, and still feel so fucked? It makes
mm,
no sense unless I am completely broken or there's something wrong with the work." And I'm always willing to just look that I'm the one who's broken, like, that's immediately
right.
where I'm going to go to, and I was there for decades, that I was so broken that nothing could help me. I was
Mm,
just a lost cause. And then I started to realize that Landmark was fucked, and thank God that I am married to who I'm married, who understands it all, because we could get it together and be like, "Yeah, no, wait, that's fucked up." And then I started learning more about trauma
ah,
and was like,
do
"Oh,
it,
no,
yeah.
that's really fucked up." Like, no wonder. No wonder. It all makes sense. Once you start learning about the 4 Fs, the, like, fight, fawn, freeze, uh, I'm missing one, but that's what my
Flight,
body
fawn, freeze. Oh, wow, I'm missing one too.
in them because 'cause I'm not doing them in the right order anyway. Um, there's one about stopping, where you just collapse.
Let's freeze.
Freeze, fawn, fight, anyway, we'll cut this
Flight,
part out.
flight.
Flight, flight, there it is. Flight is the other one. Um, yeah, that's just like I could just see how much I was in fawn, how much I was in freeze or flight, just trying to manage the overwhelm of feelings that I had, trying not to
Mm,
have them. So yeah, and then so for, like, lots of years and then Erin and I, we tried therapists, started trying other things, started reading books, or taking medication. My
mm,
god, when I finally went on, SS, the amount of shame and guilt I had about that I had to get over, that I wasn't just gonna be able to do it on my own with, like, my own strength
mm,
of will,
right.
but holy shit, did that make a huge difference. And then we read your book a year ago
Mm.
and went, "No, fuck Landmark. Yes, yes, no, we're not crazy, we're not alone. Oh my god, it's all right here." Like, we're not fucking crazy people. There's all this bullshit going on behind the scenes. And, of course, the work doesn't work when that's what it's built on,
Right.
and when it won't grow, and when it's so stuck. It's just like, yeah, it was amazing to finally feel like it wasn't all my fault. And then I
Mm,
started thinking, well, how many other people are out there feeling completely broken and like it's all their fault? And how many kids are out there who grew up in this work where it's just so deeply ingrained into us that we have a really fucked up way of interacting with the world? Like, it's not normal. It's not good. It's not healthy. There's so much to overcome from our landmark raising.
well, that brings me to where I wanted to, is so thank you for sharing all that. I know it's not easy. It's really scary to share. It's scary to speak out about this organization because and it's not simply because in the past they've threatened people. They've actually been pretty good about taking our criticism, like, in the last couple of years. I'll give them that. But they have a reputation for being incredibly litigious and scary. But that's not the scariest thing. The scariest thing is that you do 1, the self-doubt, right? We do think, "Well, maybe it really was just me." And 2, you don't wanna take other people's transformation away. You don't want, like, because you share your and you've been such a guiding light for me because 'cause you're so good at, like, "Fuck that, Ann, doesn't matter." Like, knock it off. Like, it's actually been really great for me because I still go to that because 'cause I'm a program leader, that's part of how I'm programmed. But it's not a binary. This is not we don't live in a binary world. Reality is not a binary. This is not a binary. There is not no transformation or like, that's not a thing.
Mhm.
And because I am now questioning those ideas, doesn't mean that I even have to give up the great things that I feel like I produced out of my own participation. What I do need to do is I need to keep remembering that I did that,
Mhm.
not Landmark,
Yeah.
not the ideas, not that I did that. I took those tools. We can take shitty tools and do amazing things with them. We've been doing it for centuries.
Well, that's the other part of it is anything that good I produced in my life, I thought was because of Landmark. It
Right.
wasn't because of who I innately was. It wasn't like I had some, source in me
Yeah.
that was just originally coming out because of me.
Or a set of
I could only
values.
perform with Landmark.
Yeah, I mean, we come in with so much, and then that even gets taken over, like, everything great about us is because we were there, because we were and the deeper in you are, the more that is. So, one of the things that you've really been looking at and studying, and you started doing some interviews and, you're working on your book. I love the title, Children of the Forum, so folks follow her Facebook page. She has a great Facebook page. Every Confronting the Line will be putting out everything that Lindsay does on our YouTube channel, on our Facebook page, all that. But so you've spent the last year kind of really actively deconstructing this world because 'cause you've now got friends and some validation for what it was. Can you just kinda give us a couple of highlights? Like, what have been some of the biggest, like, ahas or whatnot for you? So that, 1, you weren't alone and that it wasn't you. But
Mhm.
anything else just in terms of some highlights of the work that you've done, and then we wanna talk about the Children of the Forum and the direction of that.
Yeah, well, really finding community and knowing I'm not alone, I think is the biggest thing, and deconstructing integrity and responsibility. Those have been
Mm,
just the biggest, um, barriers to me being able to authentically express myself, which is like, yeah, and really being okay with being seen as messy or fucked up or imperfect or, not getting how I say something right or being reactionary, like actually having, and this is partly from doing a lot of somatic work over the last 2 years too, is being able to feel my feelings and being like, oh, those are telling me something. And I'm going to listen to that now and see what that's trying to tell me rather than trying to overcome it. And it's been incredible just to allow myself that. And it's hard too. I feel like
it's
it's really
uncomfortable.
uncomfortable. It's really
Yeah,
uncomfortable.
you're uncomfortable, especially
Yeah.
overwhelmed, when it's overwhelming, yeah,
And
that's great.
that's been the work, is being okay with being uncomfortable and just being okay with feeling my feelings and being okay with if I need to, you know, check out for a couple of weeks and not be talking to people. And, this idea that I have to constantly be in communication and working on myself. And like if, something comes up, I've got to sort that out with someone right away. All this urgency and being able to take urgency out of my life and be able to just actually, it's so funny. It's like everything contradicts what they want to do. I actually be with what's happening in the moment and feel
It
it.
kind of comes full circle. I'm no in my deconstructing, I think there is healthy transformation, there is healthy ideas, there's, in there for sure, but you kinda gotta be willing to be curious about what's unhealthy to get at the healthy. Like, you
Yeah.
can't have and that's the thing that I see so many practitioners miss. They get so enamored with their thing, their product, their idea, their doctrine, their insight, their breakthrough, and it's amazing for them, but they don't it's like there's all these side effects, but they don't even know to look for side effects, right?
Yeah.
So, okay, it's amazing for me, but it's not amazing for somebody who has serious childhood trauma, for example. Like, that's such a good example. I'll go on the record here as saying out of what I've learned the last couple of years is programs like the Landmark Forum are not for people who have complex PTSD or PTSD
Mm.
or some kind of I'll say significant trauma. In other words, something that's really, you've been assaulted, you've been molested, whatever. It's it's
I would even say anybody who's neurodiverse, like ADHD, autism, they're not prepared to
yeah.
deal with anybody who, again, isn't in, like, the type A personality frame. Like, that's what they're looking at as the base model.
Yeah. So, my god, we could explore anyway. Okay, I'm gonna risk this because you guys have no idea how many times Lindsay and I spend a lot of time sitting around talking about this stuff, and it's really fun. So, what do you see so you're gonna be doing these interviews and really exploring the impacts of these kinds of trainings, not just Landmark, because 'cause they're not alone. The troubled teen industry is getting exposed now. Again, I just find it so interesting that as parents, like, somehow we wanna, like, save our kids from being teenagers. No, they're teenagers. They're a mess. They're
Yeah.
trying to figure out who they are. They're depressed. They're emo. They're all these things. And it feels like one of the frontiers that we're on that we're really like we're back in the leeches ages, where we're still like leeching people and,
Yeah.
beating the demons out of them or whatever. It's crazy. So I think that's why I really wanna support you in this project. I'm just curious if you've seen in the work you've done so far, anything that's distinctly dangerous for people doing these kinds of programs, this kind of work when they don't have a full prefrontal cortex, when they don't or they're before the age of consent. So there's kind of
Yeah.
emotional, psychological, neurological factors at play, and I know you'll be talking to different experts to explore different areas of that, but just can you give us at a high level some things that you've seen that are different? And then you and
Yeah.
your husband, you have your own experience to draw from as well.
Well, yeah. Um, Doing it before your prefrontal cortex is developed has a lot more risk. And one of the main things is that you can't, and this is true for most people. Like, this isn't just an age thing, but it's especially true for young people, is you when someone says to you, "This is not the truth, it's just an idea to try on," and then you put them in a highly emotional, intense environment, you can't you can say those words, but your brain and body cannot experience it as anything other than the truth when
Mm.
you're in that environment. No matter how much the formulator says, "Just try this on. It's just an idea." You can't do it. It
Well,
becomes a
you're
part of you.
literally creating I'm in a advanced neuroscience, based coaching certification program right now, and I'm just loving with Ann Betts, who I know you're gonna do some work with, and she's just amazing, her and her partner Ursula and their programs, like, big shout out to Be Above Coaching. But as I'm, like, studying this, I'm like, "Oh," and a big part of it is, human beings are the only creature that is born without their brain formed, without it full you have the base equipment is there, but the brain actually forms, and the brain is the control system. So it is the control center for, everything that's running in our bodies, our biological systems, our emotions, all that. But it's not really fully formed until somewhere between they say for girls, it's around 23, 24, for boys, 25, 27. But what's happening before that is those neuronal pathways, those habits, that conditioning, they're getting they call it pruning, right? Like you're pruning and everything. So when you're in I can get what you're saying, like, yeah, you don't really have literally the capacity to go to discern at that level because you
Yeah,
don't
you
have
can't take
enough.
a step back.
Yeah, it's like you don't have enough root system there to be able to do that. Step in and step out. It's not until later, but then you're already implanted with those ideas and those thoughts. And since talking with you, I'm now starting to notice I can kind of tell when I'm talking to somebody who's done this work since they were young or grew up in a
Mhm.
family, which has a whole bunch of other things. I know you have some great interviews already done about that. But yeah, so I can get that. Like it's just, it forms you. Anything else?
Oh my gosh, there's so many things. Just
This is kind
take
of
a minute.
teasers for children of the forum. This they kind of
Yeah, yeah, my mind's just going a bit blank right now, so let me see if I can what was the question again? You
Well,
bring
can
me
I
back.
give you one? Actually,
Yeah.
because I just thought of one as I said anything else. I was like, "Oh," one of the things that you and your husband have talked about a lot that I've just been really like, "Huh, huh." I don't have any answers around this, but you have said a lot that you were sort of given an identity before you had a chance to formulate one. So, like,
Mhm.
when you were in your kind of identity formulation, this doctrine, this programming kind of came in. So you've said to me a number of times, you're like, "I didn't even get a chance to find out who I was without this."
Oh god, yeah.
I just know
Uh,
that's been a particular pain point for you, so I'm just curious how that is going for you, like, how
yeah,
that
yeah.
as you're evolving and progressing in your own learning and your own healing and your own study, because I know you're studying somatics and a lot of other things, so.
That that is such a tricky one, and I think the younger you are when you do it, the harder it is. Like, my husband was 7, and he
Mm,
struggles with this even more than I do. Yeah, finding, like, who was I before I did the course? What is the core of me? Who am I under all these trained responses?
mm,
It's really, really hard to separate. I don't know if there is separation, really, when it's done that young. What I'm doing, instead of trying to separate it from me, is just realize when I'm giving Landmark credit where credit's not due. I used to all the time just credit it for just any
every
reason I'm great is because of Landmark.
right,
Any way that I am that people are like, "Oh, she's so whatever." It's like, "Oh, yeah, I got that from my training in Landmark."
right.
And realizing that it's not, like, I'm great without my training in Landmark. I am, I'm really funny, I'm smart, I'm social, I'm great with people, I'm interested in people, I'm empathetic. I have all these ways of being that Landmark's education helped bring out in me, I think supported parts of it, but it was me. And I've
Mhm.
always thought it was them putting it into me, where really it was me and I gave that away, and it made it so that there was like a hollowness around it. Like when people would say that I was so great, it was like, I've been trained, you
Yeah,
know? It was like it
beautiful
just
what you're
never
saying.
sunk in.
And one last question, what are your hopes and dreams for Children of the Forum? Like, what is that about for you? What's your hopes and dreams for that?
Well, right now it's a learning tool for me, and I hope for other people.
Mhm.
I want to get the word out there, have people share their experiences. People can find it and not think that there are some broken anomaly out in the world. And it's also so that I can start learning. Like, I'm going to interview Ann Betts. This is so big. There's so much to deconstruct. And as I started to go through it, I was like, well, everybody needs to know this. It's not just me who needs to know this. People need to know specifically what doesn't work about the work for kids, because Landmark is still offering 15-year-olds to do the Landmark form, and it's inappropriate, like,
Well, and
full
there's a
stop.
lot of other ones too. I mean, there's a lot of they're not necessarily direct offshoots, but, I'm thinking of our friend Carrie Bunn, she's working on her Sea-Doo documentary, and,
Yeah.
there's a lot of people out there, the whole Youth at Risk organization. Anyway, but there's a lot of people out there that wanna make a difference for teens and young people, and we need to understand what works and what doesn't work to authentically fulfill on that commitment. And,
Yeah.
do you think that there is safe and ethical way to do work with teens and young people?
I don't know. I haven't come across anything that might be in the world of self-help myself that I think is
Mhm.
appropriate for teens. Um
Maybe that could be one of the things we go looking for in Children of the Forum, like, see if we can find
Yeah,
one.
yeah, and I know, like, I think with teens, you've gotta be careful about the group environment with teens, and
Mm.
so I think that, like, yeah, I that's something I will continue looking for and continue studying and seeing what is out there that does feel safe and good,
Mm.
because teens really do need support, but
Well, hopefully the work that you're doing also will help inform the evolution and development of safe and
oh my
ethical work.
gosh, that's the dream.
All of this is that
Yeah.
we're excavating so that we can find ways to evolve the work. That's what they call it, landmark. Turns out in XEM and Scientology, actually, they all use that, the work.
Crazy.
But, there's one person who uses it, actually has it trademarked, and and all of a sudden I'm blanking on her name. Somebody will know it and put it in the show notes because she's very famous and she's good. She's actually a really good teacher. She is one of the few examples of a safe and ethical teacher, and I'm so sorry I can't think of her name right now. But she's the one who trademarked the work, and she uses it differently than how
Mm.
Scientology, Landmark, and no, those fields use it. But, um that whole this is why we're doing it. Like, so we can see, well, okay, what can we learn? What can
Yeah.
we learn where we have been? If we don't study the past, we're going to repeat it.
Mhm.
If we don't look at where we have been, we're going there again.
Yeah.
And it's just part of the whole human experience dynamic, way that we operate. So anyway, and vets can tell us the whole neuroscience reason, but we won't go into that. So
Well, I just wanted to add one more thing too is that, like, part of the reason I'm doing this is because I can't find anybody else who is.
Mhm.
There People aren't really looking at this transformation work and how it affects kids. Not that I can find. Yeah, so I hope that me speaking about it draws more attention to it and more people start looking into it and studying it and it becomes more of a uh, just more like it's Sean. Yeah.
Well, and what I appreciate about your approach too is it's not just the what's wrong with it, rah, 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 like we do that a lot in our society. We go, that's wrong, that's bad. And look, that's an important factor. I'm not against that at all. I'll do that with the best. I'll march, I'll do all that stuff. That's often what breaks us free. But then what?
Mhm.
Then are we going to actually deconstruct? Are we going to study? Are we going to get the support? Maybe we can now see that's the big thing that's come up around trauma is really recognizing how this kind of work does not work on trauma. Well, what does? And Brian Arbor just launched his own podcast, Traces of Trauma, which I'm really excited about. And he's doing some great study because that's the question he's trying to answer. He's like, well, that didn't work. In fact, that kind of probably covered up a lot of what I needed to be working on for a long time.
Mhm.
What does?
Yeah.
So, that kinda curiosity is priceless. So, I'm really looking forward to it. I'm excited to have lots more we'll have conversations from time to time, but, folks definitely tune in. We'll be setting up a playlist, Children of the Forum. We're gonna be a little preview. We're gonna be launching a Patreon. Anyway, that'll have a whole list on it for just the children of the forum as well. And just thanks everybody for listening. And thanks, Lindsay, for diving in. And thanks for being such a great example of what it looks like to both dive in and take care of yourself. I think I've learned more from you in the last year than just about anybody that I've talked with and worked with in that, because it's like, "Wait, okay, I can take a break. Wait, I can take a week off here or there," and that's why our shows drop when they're ready to drop, because we're all swimming through all of this stuff that was sort of laid into us and trying to
Yeah.
sort out what we wanna keep and what we wanna digest and what we wanna throw away.
And just
So,
not to have it figured out before I start doing it. That's the biggest thing for me is that I don't have to have it all figured out. I can
yeah,
just start doing it and see what happens.
beautiful. Well, thank you. I look forward to it so
Thanks
much.
so much.
And as always, I always wanna put a little plug here at the end, folks, for the Healthy Healing Group that we host with Rachel Bernstein. It's a combination therapy, learning, camaraderie, learning, learning, learning. I'm learning so much from being in that group, even just learning what healthy group dynamics look like from being in a group with somebody of her expertise and her skill and her experience. And she's a very accomplished, um, therapist that has a whole practice that doesn't have anything to do with cults, actually. She sees people, that's she's not locked into that, and she's an educator in the cult dynamics and how those impact us. So, anyway, just big shout out for the Healthy Healing Group. If don't go it alone, folks. We've got it on a sliding scale. Join us. We'll put it's always in the show notes. Thank you. Have a great day, everybody.